So we don't know what the future is, what the plans are. We're stubborn and we're determined and we're optimistic, so we're not going to let this stop us. I'm just going to get straight to it. We have had quite a few changes here at the moment, and we just wanted to bring you up to speed with kind of where we're at now and what is going on, because to be perfectly honest, we haven't picked up a camera in over a month. So this is now coming to you very, very real time. Now, if you have watched our recent videos, you know that we sailed to New Zealand. We had this great plan to do a big refit. We have got loads of projects lined up to do on the boat. And we were really looking forward to just getting here and getting stuck straight in with all of this work. However, life on a boat comes with changes, and as much as we hate that, we have tried to learn to accept it, and we find ourselves yet again in the middle of a huge change just now. So we've spent the last 3 years living off-grid in uninhabited places in remote islands, and quite often that means that when we return to civilization, we are surrounded by lots of people. It's very overwhelming, and quite often that's when you get sick and you pick up all of these new bugs. So a lot of people I know this Christmas picked up the flu and were quite ill with it. We were no exception to that. We both got ill. It laid us flat for a couple of weeks. Iain has now recovered, thankfully. But 6 weeks later, I am still completely floored by this. The flu part of things is gone, but I'm just dealing with some kind of post-viral fatigue. So I can barely sit up for an hour a day, and that is pretty much my limit of my activity right now. I am sleeping most of the time. My heart right now is thumping. All of my muscles are really sore and achy. I'm in quite a lot of pain, and I can't do anything at all. If you have had the flu, you know that it sucks and you can't do anything. If you've had post-viral fatigue, you know that that really sucks and it can last a long time, and it takes you a while to get back up to your normal activity levels. The extra additional concern and fear for us right now is that this is not the first time that this has happened to me. So I haven't really shared this before, but before we came sailing, I was diagnosed with ME, which is short for myalgic encephalomyelitis. It's also called chronic fatigue. And I basically didn't get out of bed for 2 years. I had good days and I had bad days, but on my bad days, I couldn't walk. I could barely talk. I lost my short-term memory. I couldn't drive, I couldn't work, I couldn't cook, I could barely eat. It really was quite scary. I sort of lost all of my personality. I just was a completely different person, just trying to survive, and I had no idea what would make it better. Eventually, thankfully, I did, and bit by bit, I could get back to daily life and all the normal things I enjoyed. I went back to teaching. I started 1 day a week was all I could manage. And each year I added another day to that. So then I was doing 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And by that point was when we left the UK and we bought a boat and we said, let's go and see if living in the sunshine helps a little bit. And it did. And I haven't had a crash or relapse in over 6 years, which has been incredible. But here I am again. And so just the knowledge that this isn't necessarily a short-term thing. For most people, it might take a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then they would be recovered. But I know what it feels like for that to last longer, and that's really quite daunting. So we don't know what the future is, what the plans are. We're stubborn and we're determined and we're optimistic, so we're not going to let this stop us. We're going to keep going. We're going to do the refit, but it's going to look quite different. So Iain is going to take on the entire project. That is a huge amount of work. He's going to try and film it all. He's going to try and edit it all. and I am going to try and get better. I'm going to try and get back to some kind of normality, and if that happens more quickly than I think, then hopefully I can get back and be part of these projects and be part of this filming. But if it doesn't, then you just might not see me quite so much in these videos coming up. So I'm going to take some time. I'm going to stay here on the boat. I'm still going to be in the background of things, but I'm going to try and rest up and do what I can to get back to normal, because it kills me to not be part of all this. But obviously we need to prioritize that. So bear with us. We don't know what this process is going to look like. We don't know how long it's going to last and what we might need to change from here on going forward. But I just wanted to let you know that's where we're at right now. So thank you for bearing with us. I know that a lot of you are really excited to see these boat projects. We are too. And we're going to do our absolute best to do the best we can and to get on with it all. So that's where we are. And you might just be seeing a lot more of Iain in the near future.
Yeah, so sorry about that, because it does mean you're going to have to put up with my boring face and this droney voice just a little bit more than you're used to. However, we did see a forest walk just not too far away from here the other day, and I figured I'd go out there, stretch my legs, and give you a bit of a sense of what we're actually trying to achieve. Yes, the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed I'm actually wearing trainers for the first time in years. It's kind of two reasons. One, it is actually a little bit cold and my toes are feeling it. And two, I've actually damaged a nerve in my heel. So I need to put more cushioning under my heel for a little while that nerve recovers. And these super squishy trainers are doing the trick. So they're the cheapest ones in the shop. I just hope they hold out. So pretty much every time I walk into this car park, I'm holding my breath that old Ratty is still there, because we're just parking in a public car park because it's free and you never quite know if it's going to get vandalized or damaged, but thankfully she's still here. Okay, I'm going to take us up to a kind of waterfall / forest walk that we found. It's got this really cool walkway on it, and I've not explored all of it yet. But before I head out, I figure I should explain, this is quite an intimidating journey we're going on. Not this drive, but this whole refit. For years, we've been talking about it would be great when we get somewhere that we can do all of this work. But we've never once considered it to be a solo effort. We do everything together, right? Brian and I are basically in each other's space 24/7 on that boat. And so, yeah, this is going to take some getting used to. So even filming isn't something I'm totally used to doing solo, so I hope I capture everything for you, and if I fail, I can only apologise. I'll do my best, please bear with me. I'm hoping Brownie will be well enough to help me out to fix the mistakes I make as well. We generally share all the filming, we share all the editing, so yeah, this will be a bit different. Just bear with me. So forgive me, I'm filming on my phone on the dashboard because I'm discovering just how hard it is to film solo, but hopefully you can put up with the changing quality. That's just what we're gonna have to live with for a while. I wanted to mention, I think we said it previously, that one of the wondrous things about Whangarei, I still can't quite get it right, is how close we are to nature. So here, I'm following the same river that Indy's currently moored in, and I'm just gonna follow the river up, and over to my right, it's kind of like it's almost like a peninsula. And on that peninsula, there are so many different forest walks and things you can do. So we're gonna head over there, we're gonna find this canopy walk. And I mean, I've been told that there's little kiwi birds living there and stuff. So I don't know if that's true, but it'd be fun to find out. I mean, come on guys, just listen to this. No, that's not the microphone breaking. That is the sound of nature only a few minutes off the back of India. I mean, yeah, This place is very cool. I am enjoying it, I have to say. We've been kind of trapped on the boat while we've been recovering. Obviously, Brownie's going to be trapped on the boat a bit longer, which is a real shame. But knowing this kind of stuff is just outside, it's kind of a mixture of torture and bliss, because it's torture when you know it's there and you can't get there, and bliss when you do. So yeah, hopefully we'll find more opportunities between now and our actual haul-out date to do that, to get out and see things. It's not like Brownie's completely bedridden, but she needs to recover. We need to give her a space and her time to do so. I'm also very aware that I've just brought you to a hike of sorts, so a canopy walk. It's supposed to be a kind of loop shape, so it should be fine. But if I get lost, we together have to work out how we blame Brownie for this Brownie hike, okay? So I'm just making a pact now. If I get lost, somehow Brownie is responsible. I leave it to you to let me know how, somewhere in the comments, because I might need to dig my way out of this one, because she will see this footage. All right, there is no denying it. I've got to face up to the truth. Things have been a little bit hard for the last couple of weeks as we've been recovering, and they're looking like they're going to get a whole lot tougher in a minute. Taking on this entire refit solo is a little bit intimidating, but it's also necessary. Necessary because whilst we like to live in a world where time doesn't matter, seasons do. And if we don't get this refit done in this season, it kind of stops us getting to leave here in kind of April, May time, somewhere in there, when the weather turns and we can start heading north again rather than being stuck down here through what would be New Zealand winter. So yeah, there's a lot we need to do. To start with, our through hulls are pretty horrendous. They are essentially just bits of rotten metal now. And Indioko, as I think we've said, has been sinking for the last couple of years. Not ideal. So we do need to look at addressing the through hulls, our kind of bilge systems in general, so that when we take on water, hopefully fixing the through hulls will reduce that, but when we take on water, we need to be able to get that water out of the boat as quickly as possible. So we'll look at bilge systems, through hulls. The other day we had a fairly major storm and we noticed just how leaky all of our windows are. We had buckets all over the place trying to catch these raindrops that were just falling into our living room. I head into the galley. The ceiling one also leaking. The front one does usually have a leak around here. That tub's there for that. And in our saloon, on the sofas, we also have that leak, which we have to catch on the sofa in a tub. So we're gonna have to deal with the windows. And then there is another big one to do with that, which is, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but our saloon ceiling is essentially rotten. We had water get into the core between the two layers of fiberglass that make up that part of the coach roof. And it's essentially turned that balsa core into mush. So we need to deal with that, which is quite a big one. That's gonna be cutting a big panel out the ceiling and reglassing something in there. And actually, that part's quite important because the other side of that ceiling is where our Genoa track lives. So there's a lot of forces on that part of the boat, shall we say. So on top of all that, we need to think about our more fundamental systems. So our Watermaker, for example, failed on us back in the Cook Islands. There's two pumps. There's a small pump and a big pump. And we thought we might have issues with the small pump, so I was already working on replacing/repairing that. And just as I was running up the Watermaker to pressure, suddenly the high pressure pump, which is much louder and noisier and grumpy, just stopped. We kind of glued it back together as best we can, but it is going to need some serious attention now, or possibly even replacement, which is crazy expensive. Further to that, we do need to think about our power situation, because our flexible solar panels that we have glued onto the hardtop, they've been great for us, but they are kind of reaching the end of their life. So 3, I think, have now completely failed, and that's out of a total of 8. So we're not drawing in enough power to keep the boat running. Certainly on passage, we seriously struggle to keep all our instruments alive and an autopilot. So we need to fix that, and batteries is going to be part of that as well. Those ones are going to be, again, quite expensive. But alongside that, we need to be aware that we are planning on heading up towards Southeast Asia. And we thought the anchorages in French Polynesia were pretty deep, right? And they were in places, but there was always somewhere you could squirrel away and get decent holding. Up in Southeast Asia, we're going to need to rethink our anchoring system. get longer chain, check the working load of the windlass, that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot more to think about on that front. And then another fundamental system to be aware of is our fuel tanks, which you might be aware blew up on us 5 days after we bought the boat. And again, roughly this time last year when we were heading south to the Gambia. Long story short, our fuel tank exploded, or at least we think it did.
Hooray! That's always what you want.
As we are in the middle of nowhere, as we're battling our way to even more in the middle of nowhere, there aren't many plastic tank manufacturers around. And so we're having to readdress solutions that we already tried when we first got Indio. So whilst we've been able to patch those up, and we've used epoxy and paint to do it, we are going to have to look quite seriously at how we fix this pitting long term, whether that be welding up new tanks or just welding repairs. I don't know if that's even possible on aluminium tanks, but certainly high on the list. And the thing is, even if we manage to complete all of those fundamental tasks, one of the reasons we came here was actually to protect the entire boat. So Indioko, if you don't know, is covered in gel coat, which is basically a substance that manufacturers use to make boats easier to break free from a mold when they're building them. However, it's not really made for saltwater environments. It's weird that they use this stuff because you then have to protect it with wax, and then you buff it and you clean it to keep it kind of up to health. And Indioko is 20 years old, a bit more than now. And as a result, her 20 years of hard work, prior to us getting her, she was in charter. She wasn't cared for properly. And I have to admit, where we go, we can't care for her properly too when it comes to that coating of gel coat and keeping wax on that to protect it. So our hope was, still is, that we'll be able to paint Indioko in a hard 2-part epoxy style paint, which means that she'll be protected. It means that we don't need to worry quite so much about the aggressive salt corroding away on that surface. Because right now, if I put my hand flat on a surface on Indioko's deck, or even on the hulls, and take it off, it'll be caked in white chalk powder, basically. So we need to fix that. That's a high priority item, but it also looks like an aesthetic one. It looks like we're just trying to show off. It's actually to save the whole boat long term. And then if I were to give you like the dream project, one that we've been longing for since before we bought the boat. It was actually on our very first kind of wish list for the boat when we got her, was some kind of folding, feathering prop solution. So currently we have the same propellers that the boat shipped with, which are fixed blade, 3-blade props, kind of like you'd expect to see in a cartoon. What we want to do is, instead of dragging all the resistance that those props create as we move through the water, it's like dragging 2 buckets behind the boat. Normally, cruising would involve getting a propeller that collapses somehow and lets more water past and reduces that friction, that resistance. That would just be like icing on the cake. If we can get to that stage where we have some form of low resistance propeller on the boat, on both sides, then we'll really get the nanny engines to shine the way they're supposed to. And we would be set to take on the world. Sounds ridiculous to say that given how many times we've taken on the world so far, but you know what I mean, right? We would be ready for the next big step in Red Sea's adventure, knowing that the boat is kitted out to the max for what we're trying to do. It's just down to whether or not one person can take on all of that work in just a couple of months. Yeah, we may be biting off a little bit more than we can chew at this point. Okay, all this talking through projects has made me realise I actually have to go and get on with some of them. And there is one that, it's not pressing, but it's certainly one that's been lingering ever since we got here. So I better go deal with that one first. That is one massive tree. Sorry. That's wild. That's like 3 times my arm span. That's huge. Look at it. Okay, sorry.